Welcome, everyone, to episode 2 of Whaddya Say with DDJ. I'm DDJ, and before I get into this week's guest, I want to thank everyone who took the time to listen to episode 1 of Whaddya Say. I appreciate all the feedback, the love, and all the positive vibes that was sent my way. I also wanted to let everybody know that this podcast is available now on Google Podcast, Anchor, Spotify, Pocket Cast, and as of earlier this morning, it is now available on Apple Podcast. So it's a really exciting time for me, and once again, thank you to everyone who is taking time to listen to this episode. My guest this week is OVW superstar Steve Michaels. He's going to have a really good story about what got him into wrestling, the path he took to get to where he's at now, and I hope you all enjoy. So let's get right to it. This is my interview with Ohio Valley Wrestling superstar Steve Michaels. Alrighty then. Welcome to episode 2 of Whaddya Say with DDJ. I'm DDJ, and with me tonight I have Steve Michaels, who wrestles in Ohio Valley Wrestling, and he is a very talented individual. I must say so myself. Steve, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Hey, it's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for saying that. So let's kind of get right into it. Give the audience here a little bit of background on yourself, who you are, where you're from, all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up here in the Chicago area. Um, I moved down to Florida for a few years to train to become a wrestler. Trained for about a year and a half with the Dudleys, and then I went on and got my polishing at Pro Wrestling 2.0's dojo, also in the Orlando area under Alex Porto and Ricardo Rodriguez and Mecha Wolf 450. From there, moved back home. I got my start down in Florida. Worked a lot of the promotions down in Florida. Um, Moved back up to the Chicago area where I live currently, and started wrestling for local promotions, mainly Berwyn Championship Wrestling over in Berwyn, Illinois, just outside the city. And now I'm along with all the other places that I show up in. Mainly, I'm with Ohio Valley Wrestling every single week on their national television show on U2 America.
Awesome, awesome. A lot of names I heard there that I recognize. I'm a huge Dudley Boys fan and stuff, so I'm definitely going to kind of want to touch base with that. So, first question is, what got you into wrestling? What made you a fan?
Yeah, I was always a fan growing up. My dad used to watch wrestling, and I'd watch wrestling with him downstairs, and he'd watch from the couch, I'd watch from the chair, and I was just kind of enthralled. My mom, not as big of a fan. She wasn't a big fan of wrestling, but my dad got me into it. He took me to every time WWE would come to the All-State, we'd go. Every time there was an indie show in the area, whether it was ROH running at the Field House or I think it was PCW um, running also right by the Field House as well, and uh, that's how I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the show. I fell in love with the athleticism, the characters, the stories. Like, I mean, there was so much there, and as a kid, it's such an attractive kind of thing because there's so many things going on at once, and yeah, I just kind of fell in love with it.
That's awesome. You're basically kind of sum up how I feel about pro wrestling, which is really cool. So, when you first got into it, who were like some of your early favorites?
I mean, you know, obviously Stone Cold and The Rock are they were everyone's favorites, you know. Um, I was a big fan of Too Cool. Um, they were just fun to watch, you know, as a kid. That's like, you know, Scotty doing the worm and Grandmaster with the hip hop drop. Like I always loved that. Um, you know, characters like that, Undertaker. Um, and then, you know, I was at the Allstate when like Cena debuted and things like that. So I mean my tastes evolved over time.
Okay, yeah, I know I'm kind of the same way and stuff like that. So, okay, so when did you decide that becoming a professional wrestler was what you wanted to do?
Uh, you know, I as a fan, I had went to WrestleMania when it was out in California. I think it was when they were in like the San Diego area or something like that, or LA area, and ended up meeting the Wild Samoans as a fan. Um, Went up to get their autograph, and Afa looked at me, and the first things before I could even say hi, and Afa looked at me and was like, "Do you wrestle?" And my response was, "I'm not. I don't. I'm not sure if I can do it. If I'm cut out for it," were my exact words. And he just kind of smiled and he was like, "You never know until you try." Fast forward to about a month later, um, I was here in Chicago again as a fan. Met Tommy Dreamer, and Tommy and I had a long conversation. I had a podcast at the time with my buddy, and we got him on our podcast, and we did a quick little interview, and we are just standing around talking, and Tommy just kind of like stopped the conversation. He looked at me. He was like, I'm sorry, I've been meaning to ask you, do you wrestle?" And I kind of looked at him. I was like, because I was a fan of Tommy. I was an ECW guy.
Me
You know,
too.
I'd stay up till 2 in the morning to watch ECW, and uh, you know, so I was like, no, but you're the second person that's asked me within the past month. I'm honestly thinking about it. And he kind of, you know, he gave me this look, and he was like, you know, if you were a wrestler right now, and I was in my old position as talent relations for WWE, he's like, I would offer you a contract on the spot. I was told to hire guys that looked like you, so I would offer you a contract, no questions asked. And really kind of taken aback by that, because that's a huge kind of a deal, and kind of a moment where it just changes everything. You know, you go from thinking, well, maybe I'll give it a shot, to maybe there is a shot there, or maybe there is an opportunity there for me down the line. And that kind of pushed me over the edge, and decided to make a life change and move to Florida, and the rest is history.
Wow, that's pretty cool because I'm a huge Tommy Dreamer guy. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool that you had that kind of experience with him. So so once you made the decision to become a wrestler and move down to Florida, was Team 3D Academy your first place you looked into or and trained at, or did you go anywhere else before you went to their academy?
They were my first option, and I learned a lot there. I really did, and I can't thank Bubba and Devon enough for everything I learned under them. I can't thank um, the other additional trainers there, John Cruz. I can't thank him enough. I can't thank Jay Rios enough. Um, they they gave me a good foundation. They took this guy who had never done a somersault in his life, and um, helped give me the basics. Um, but you know, sometimes life gets in the way of things, and unfortunately, um, the scheduling at the school, combined with my life schedule and some things that were going on in my life at that time, I ended up having to leave at the end of my year and a half contract that I had signed with Team 3D, and so I went over to Pro Wrestling 2.0, where I first met Alex Porto, um, and Ricardo Rodriguez, Jesus Rodriguez, and decide, and their schedule fit what I needed a little bit better, and um, again, super grateful for my time at Team 3D, um, but life's weird, wrestling's weird. You never know, you never in your head, the path you think you're going to take isn't necessarily the path you are going to take, and that was the case with me. Um, but the path I took, I think, in the long run, ended up being for the best, because I got to sit under some new learning trees and learn some different styles, um, and learn different thought processes and things like that.
Nice. So, so what was it like? Because, again, I mentioned, I'm a huge fan of Bubba and Devon. I mean, were they as intense as trainers as they were as wrestlers, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean they were tough, but they were fair. Both had amazing minds, really, really great minds for the business. Um, Devon always treated me like a son while I was there, and I appreciate that. I appreciated that so much because, again, as a fan growing up, you watch them on TV, you have their merch, you always kind of idolize these guys, and um, for the way Devon always treated me and kind of took me under his wing, um, and always kind of gave me advice. I couldn't be more grateful, especially as a kid who had, was hoping to break into the business. Same thing with all their training staff there too.
Cool. So, okay, so obviously, you left Team 3D, went on to Pro Wrestling 2.0, and mentioned about how you learned a lot from there. What would you say was like the best piece of advice you were given there, and how did you apply it to enhance your career?
Uh, you know, Jesus, he would always talk to me about doing less. Uh, how it's not necessary for me to do 20 different moves in a match. I really only need to do 6. And to focus on 6 moves and make those 6 moves the best moves I know how to do, and make those 6 moves the best moves in the world. Um, and that really kind of changed my mindset on things. I honestly, I don't think he gets a lot of credit, um, for having the kind of mind that he has. He's really kind of, if you get a chance to talk to him and to train under him, he's one of those guys that he, he just sees things just a little bit differently, but in a world where everyone kind of sees things the same way, getting kind of a different perspective is so helpful, because you're not then being bombarded with the same information over and over and over again. You're then hit with, yeah, that's all true, but if you think about it this way, this might help you get work through that other stuff that everyone's telling you. And 9 times out of 10, it worked. To this day, I still text him and message him, if I have questions about something, or if I'm having a problem in the business, and just to get advice. He's become a good friend. Um, but I mean, that was the biggest kind of thing, was there's, to focus on those 6 moves, and also there's so many different ways to look at things, that to not kind of have that tunnel vision on just that one way, and maybe look to your right, look to your left. Maybe there's a different way to do that same thing that's easier for you, but still gets you to that same point.
Gotcha. Very, very. That's. And one of the things I'm thinking of in my mind as I'm hearing you talk about that piece of advice is, it's one of those things that not only applies to in the world of pro wrestling, but you can also apply that in life as well.
You really can, and he's a wise dude. And it was always just kind of fun to just, you know, after we're done training, just kind of sit there in the ring and just talk to him about stuff, or before trainings, just kind of talk to him about stuff. Um, because he was really kind of a uh, he was mentally open to so much, and really he really opened my eyes to so many things in the business.
Cool. Okay, so what ended up bringing you back to the Chicagoland area?
So man, Chicago's home. It's home, and I was doing good in Florida. I was working shows, but Florida's a weird place. You could work every day in Florida if you wanted to, but you're probably not going to make a lot of money, because there's so many wrestlers. There's so many wrestlers concentrated in Florida because everybody's got a school down there, performance centers down there.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody and their mom's got a promotion. So if you're good, you can work every single day in Florida, but you're still being undercut by so many other people because there's that many other wrestlers in Florida that are trying to get your spots. Um, so one thing that I kept hearing from like day one of training is don't stay in Florida. You've got to leave Florida if you want to be successful. Um, and I really kind of took that to heart. And I the opportunity opened up for me at Berwyn Championship Wrestling. The booker at the time, Frankie Rodriguez, who I'm also still really good friends with right now.
He's a good guy. I've known him for a really long time.
Fantastic guy, really great guy. Um, I sent him a message and I was like, "Look, this is who I was trained by. This is what I can do. I'd like to work for you." And he gave me an opportunity. Um, and I moved back home. He gave me an opportunity at BCW at Berwyn, and I I'm one of those guys where if I get the opportunity, I'll take it and I'll run as far as I can with it. And he was one of those bookers that would let you run as far with it as possible. He was kind of like, if you want to go, here's the road. Like, but so I took the opportunity. I made the most of it. Um, Started, drawing fans in. Started making money, selling merch, all this stuff up here, which opened up more doors in the area, and uh, eventually connected me with Jay Bradley, who, WWE. He worked for, over at Noah in Japan. He's now at OVW. Um, but it really got that ball moving, and so moving home made the most sense because it's easier to travel across the country from a central hub like Chicago than it is doing those longer flights from or drives from Orlando. Where
Okay. So that, yeah, I get that. Definitely, being a Chicago area guy myself, I can appreciate everything that there is in the city and stuff. So okay, so some of the other, what are some of the other organizations you worked for besides Berwyn Championship Wrestling in this area?
I worked a couple times with Freelance Underground, um,
Okay.
which they've got a great crew over there. I've done stuff with uh, there's this place in the city. I forgot the name of it. Um, it'll come to me later in this. I know it will. This is how it always works. Um, but I've worked for a couple like smaller building kind of shows. Not a lot of fans, but when you're only wrestling for like a year, year and a half, you want to get as much time in the ring as possible, and you take all those shows happily. So um,
So absolutely. So okay, so obviously right now you currently wrestle for Ohio Valley Wrestling. So how tell me, how did that come about? Like, how did your opportunity to go wrestle for OVW come?
yeah, that was a lot of luck. Um, when I was in Berwyn, I had a match with Jay Bradley, and Jay and I had a really good match. Um, Jay was um, Jay did right by me in Berwyn, and helped get me over better than anyone had up to that point at Berwyn, and really kind of established me as a top wrestler in the promotion. Uh, but fast forward to about a year after that, I was going to do an Impact tryout out in Las Vegas, and messaged Frankie, and I was like, "Hey, I've got this," and he's like, "Have you talked with Jay?" Um, He's like, "No, haven't talked to Jay for about a year." He was like, "Okay, well, let me shoot Jay a message. I'm still close." Frankie was still close with Jay, so he was like, "Let me shoot him a message and see what if he has any advice for you." Frankie texted me about 5 hours later and is like, "Jay wants to give you a call." Um, so gave a call. I'll never forget this. I was in Orlando because I had just done a show with 2.0, and I was at Disney Springs, and I got this call from Jay, and he was like, "Yeah, you're probably not going to get anything from this tryout." He's like, "These tryouts are kind of cattle calls. You're probably not going to get a legitimate shot." He's like, "But I'm one of the trainers at OVW now, and we're doing some really good stuff down here." He's like, we've got TV. We're about to go. He hinted that they had big stuff on the horizon, and he was like, "You should come down." And I was like, "I would love to." I was like, he was like, "I think you'd be a good fit." He's like, "Let me talk to Al." He's like, "Get your Kentucky license and all this stuff." And uh, long story short, Al gave the thumbs up to Jay's recommendation. Jay was the guy that brought me into OVW, and been working there every week ever since. And that would have been September of last year. I think like September 17th of last year.
Wow. So what's it like working for Al Snow?
It's amazing. The man is one of the best minds in the business. I mean, he understands it as. I mean, obviously, he was a main trainer for WWE for a long time. Um, he was a wrestler for years. Uh, I mean, he's been wrestling longer than I've been around. Um, and then so he understands the worker side, the wrestler side. He understands the trainer side, and as the owner, he now understands the business side of everything. So he's got a very holistic view of wrestling. Um, and he's never going to ask you to go out there and do something that he wouldn't. Um, Al has been very good to me. He's been very, very good to me the entire time I've been down there. He's given me a lot of opportunities, a lot of chances to really prove myself as the wrestler that I am, as the selling point and the commodity that I could be. Um, and he's just kind of giving me opportunity after opportunity, to this point where now I'm able to joke around with this guy who again, I watched on TV growing up, and had action figures of, like, and to be on that kind of first name basis, and get texts and whatever, it's kind of humbling to think about.
Very cool. Very cool. So obviously, where you're working every week in OVW, and then all of a sudden the nation's hit with this COVID pandemic. How did that affect you personally? And also, how has it affected OVW? And what are you guys doing right now to kind of get back into the swing of things?
Yeah, that was rough. I mean, no pun intended. It was a killer, man. I know for myself, it, when it hit, it was right before like WrestleMania weekend when it really got really bad throughout the country. Um, I had a bunch of bookings and opportunities WrestleMania weekend that got canceled, and I think at this point I've got over 50 lost bookings that I've missed since the start of COVID here in the U.S., which is rough because that's a lot of lost money, a lot of lost opportunities. Um, but OVW at that time, they were about to announce that they were going national. You know, they had been running live weekly TV in the Louisville area on WBNA uh, down in Louisville, um, but they had just got this deal with U2 America. They were going to announce it at WrestleCon down at uh, down at WrestleMania weekend, have a big press conference with it. I was going to be a part of that. Um, that all got canceled. So you know, we have this, we now have this national TV program, but we can't run shows. Um, so OVW started running best of shows. You know, I mean, we're about to hit episode 1100, so it's not like they don't have a lot of great archive footage to run off of. Um, and that's what we did. We tried to do recaps, highlight the individual stars and the wrestlers down at OVW, and put those out on the national broadcasts. Um, it was rough. It was really rough. It was a bummer. Um, I think everybody in the promotion really kind of was deflated as soon as we found out, hey, we're not going to be running for a couple months. Um, but luckily, you know, Al's smart, Chad's smart, and we we found a place just over the river in Jeffersonville, Indiana, where we're able to run shows. Florida's open. Uh, it's weird, you know, this whole state by state thing's weird, um, because Kentucky and their athletic commission isn't allowing us to wrestle or even really be in the arena in Louisville. However, if we go across the river, Indiana's open, and is allowing wrestling, and Indiana's allowing fans to be at shows. So by transporting our show over the river, we're now able to start running uh, and putting out wrestling on our program, on our national program, and international apps and things like that. Um, and I can't tell you how happy everyone in that locker room is, how happy everyone backstage is just to be back in a building with each other. Because OVW is really kind of like a big family. Um, you know, we see each other every week. We're around each other all the time. Um, we travel to shows with each other, um, and you miss that. You miss your family when you can't see them.
Mm-hmm.
And but we're back. We're back. It's stronger than ever. It's better than ever. Um, it's amazing, man. It's really amazing.
Awesome. So what kind of like safety measures are put in place for fans to attend these shows and remain safe?
Yeah. So that was a big thing for obviously for everyone in the back. As a performer, that was a big thing for me too, because I've been staying here in my house um, and not really going places myself. So I wanted that guarantee that I could be safe as well. And what they've been doing is they've cut capacity to the building down to less than 50%, I believe it is. Um, all the seats are spread out. It's their design. It's like the way they did the. I don't even know how they designed the arena setup for this, but they've got it so that they're, groups can sit together, but everyone's spread out enough that no one's close and everyone's distancing. We've got um, there's plexiglass at the merch counters and the sales counters. We've got uh, everyone is required to wear masks that comes in. All of the wrestlers are temperature checked um, as they enter the building. So none of us, they're making sure none of us have high temperatures. Um, we're doing the best we can, to keep everyone safe. And I feel like, it's impossible to guarantee 100% safety, but I think that the things that OVW is doing, uh, they're doing the best that they can with the hand that they've been dealt.
That's awesome. So you had mentioned just a few minutes ago about episode 1100, and in a lot of shows. I'm not just talking pro wrestling, but a lot of TV shows out there. That's not a number you hear of when it comes to how many episodes of TV they've recorded. So, and I know you also want to talk about a couple other things, so I'm going to give you the chance now to mention that. So you talk about episode 1100. So what's in store for that?
So Steve Michaels, I have recently aligned myself with the Legacy of Brutality. And Legacy of Brutality has been a faction and a team in OVW since 2016. Um, they're some of the baddest guys on that roster. Uh, and but what makes them so dangerous is they've got this pack mentality. Because in reality, everyone in LOB is kind of like a family. Everybody's got each other's back, whether it's in the ring or it's in the locker room or if it's just out on the streets. We've all got each other's back. I mean, we've got so many members. I mean, everyone on the in the LOB, they're all big dudes. Big Zoe, he's a 300 pounder. He's like a big power guy, man. Like he's a scary dude. You know, Isaiah, he's like a high flyer. He's a tall dude, but he's a high flyer, and he can get around. He's our ninja, man. Um, Cash Flow, another 300 pounder. Dude's been working for like 24 years. Um, he's like he's got this weird he's just a roughneck, tough SOB. Like he'll chop you down. He'll legitimately chop you down. He can do anything in that ring and do it effectively. You know, Josh Ashcraft, man, he's our man. He's the manager. He's like he's more than a manager though. Like he's got this like master plan of things, which is kind of wild. And he's been doing that. He's been the kind of the mastermind behind LOB, and it really kind of only made sense for Steve Michaels to join LOB um, as the biggest, baddest man on that roster. Uh, you get the opportunity to join the team that is current OVW Southern Tag Team Champions, the team they're the longest reigning tag team champions in the history of OVW and the longest reigning tag team in OVW. It's like 300. It's almost like 350 days at this point combined of title reigns. You don't turn down that opportunity. So I bought in. I bought in. Steve Michaels is now the monster of LOB. Steve Michaels has bought in, and now Steve Michaels is also an OVW Southern Tag Team Champion. Because when one of us is a champion, we're all champions. So going into episode 1100, we're we're gonna have ourselves a nice little tag match. All of four of us against four other guys. And if I've learned anything in the short time I've been with LOB, I can guarantee that match is going to be absolutely brutal.
Well, I definitely can't wait to watch that and stuff. So I'm assuming throughout your career you've worked as both a baby face and a heel, correct?
I have. I
What
have.
what do you prefer, a heel or baby face?
I'm a bad guy in general, so it's it's a lot easier for me to be a bad guy, man. Like it's I'm not a high fiving little kids kind of person. I'm not a giving hugs to grandma kind of guy. I'm I want to get out there. I want to do my job. I want to I want to beat people down. I want to win titles and I want to win matches. And I want my money. Like being a bad guy is kind of inherent.
Well, who doesn't want to get who doesn't want more money?
Exactly, and that's kind of how I look at it. If the better I do, the more money I end up making, and the easier life is.
Nice. So I don't know how up to date you are with the current product, like with WWE, AEW, Impact. And if you are, who are some of your favorites right now?
I tune in when I can. Um, Honestly, I mean, I'm a big fan of Balor. I've always been a fan of Finn Balor. Um, I like I like Bray Wyatt.
Huge
Um,
fan of Bray Wyatt myself.
Bray is such a good performer. Um, I would absolutely love to get a chance to get in the ring with Bray at some point in my career. Um, those are probably the two main guys that I'm big fans of. Um, yeah, those are probably the main guys.
All right. So we're going to kind of go off here on a little bit of a tangent. When doing my looking around, researching, kind of getting to know you, getting an idea of what kind of person you are, I come across some information that you are a member of the Windy City Ghostbusters. So obviously that means you're a huge Ghostbusters fan. And as growing up, I was a huge Ghostbusters fan myself. What was it about the Ghostbusters franchise that really like drew you in?
Yeah, man. Like I absolutely love Ghostbusters. I've loved it since I was a kid. Um, there's just something like as an adult, I guess looking at it, there's something so amusing about like these guys who are essentially like janitors or like, like cleanup crew, but instead of like picking up garbage, they're catching ghosts. Um, there's just something amusing to that, and you throw them into this world where you know no one really believes that it's actually happening, um, and they've got one guy who isn't a scientist. He's just kind of an everyman in Winston, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just a really kind of a fun film. And from a filmmaking perspective of it, there's so many. I was talking to one of my friends about this actually. There's so many things that if you're watching the movie, there's always something new that you can pick up, little nuances, whether it's something that one of the guys in the background's doing, that actually is playing off of what one of the guys up front's doing, just real little things. And I think that's kind of what's made Ghostbusters such a timeless franchise.
Okay. So, and I'd also mentioned too, you were part of the Windy City Ghostbusters. Can you tell the audience a little bit more about the Windy City Ghostbusters and what they're all about?
Yeah, so the Windy City Ghostbusters is basically a group of Ghostbusters fans, um, that help raise money for charity. They have Ghostbusters gear and uniforms and things like that proton packs, traps, ectos, the whole 9 yards. And we help raise money for La Rabida Children's Hospital in the city. Um, we recently did a big trivia contest, which we hosted online on our Facebook page, and it featured 20 teams from across the U.S. and Canada, all competing for what ended up being $6,000.
Wow.
We had $6,000 split amongst 6 charities, with La Rabida Children's Hospital getting $1,000. The winning team got 2,200. Second place got 1,100. Third place got 700, and then even the last place team got a donation in there as well. And we had there were like side donations to other teams as well. The Phoenix Children's Hospital got $500. Amazing stuff. Sony helped out with it with their Ghost Corp division. They sent us videos from Ivan Reitman and
Oh, cool.
Jason Reitman. They helped us coordinate getting Ernie Hudson to come on and do a live appearance during this trivia contest. It was a really great thing, but that's what the Windy City Ghostbusters does. They're there to help.
Excuse me.
They're there to help. And you can find out all about the Windy City Ghostbusters on they're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It's just search Windy City Ghostbusters and we'll be right there.
Cool. So a couple more questions here and then we'll wrap it up. So kind of continuing on with the Ghostbusters chatter, it got a lot of criticism when it was announced and even from when it come out. But my wife and I, we both really enjoyed the remake that came out with with the all women cast and stuff. What were your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I saw a lot of, and there still is a lot of hatred and vitriol directed towards that film and that cast and the director. It's a shame. I mean, in reality, if it wasn't for that film, we would not be getting a new film next year. That's the truth. It may have not been a critical success. It may have not been a box office success, but it showed that there was still interest in the Ghostbusters as a franchise, and it showed Sony what direction they needed to go, because they learned that not everybody was on board with rebooting the franchise, but everybody did want to see the guys come back. So I think that's what directly led to Afterlife. Personally, I wasn't a huge fan of the film. It just wasn't my kind of humor. In my eyes, the jokes that they were making didn't all land, and it didn't feel like a Ghostbusters film. If it was called something else, I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But as a Ghostbusters film, I wasn't a big fan. But I don't hate it. I don't hate like the cast for it or anything like that. It just wasn't my kind of humor.
And you know what? To each his or her own. I'm never going to begrudge anyone for their opinion as long as they can speak to it, Last Ghostbusters related question is, how excited are you for the new movie coming out?
Absolutely thrilled. Absolutely thrilled. It's, that's the movie I think everybody's been wanting for, 35 years, 30 years. I'm thrilled, and I wish that COVID didn't happen so I could have already seen it. But I'm sure this time is actually going to make the film better, because now, Jason's sitting on this film and he's probably going over the film with a fine-tooth comb, making edits and fine tuning little things that may have not hit originally. So I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled. I'll be the first person in line to see that.
Awesome. Last question I got for you here is who is Steve Michaels' all-time favorite professional wrestler?
Oh man, all time. I would say it's a weird one. I was always a I'm a fan of Nick Bockwinkel. Um,
And not weird at all, in my opinion.
um, you know, he was a great performer, uh, but on the mic, uh, his promos were absolutely phenomenal. Um, they got they got him over, and they got over this arrogance and this intelligence aspect that I don't think anyone has been able to replicate since, or replicate since effectively. Um, because one of the big things he used to do that always stood out to me is he did these promos where he would use one big word or phrase, and he'd work it into the promo, but he would never explain what it meant. He would say his promo, and he would drop it, and then he would just keep going. And what that did is it made the fans just so, like, I'm getting into like psychology here, but it made the fans so angry because he's talking over them, and that's talking down to them because they don't know what he said, and by just going past it, they've now kind of lost what he's talking about. So now the fans are mad because they don't get what he's saying, and it makes them hate him even more. It was little things like that that he did that it made him such a good talker. And again, in the ring, his matches, they still hold up. They're still fun to watch. I've got like a ripped DVD of just a bunch of his matches. I love watching his stuff.
Awesome. Okay, so before we call it a night, I'm going to give you some time here to plug whatever you want to plug. So the floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you again for having me. I greatly appreciate this. This has been an absolute joy. Um, so first off, and most importantly, uh, OVW Wrestling is on every week on the channel U2 America. You can find it nationally. It is every Friday night at midnight Eastern, 11 Central. Um, if you don't have U2 America on your cable provider, OVW has an app on Roku and Fire Stick, and it's just called OVW TV. It was put out by Film Volt in association with the Gladiator Sports Network, and you're able to watch. Um, I believe that the new episodes are put up it's either every Saturday or every Monday. I'm not 100% sure. Um, but it has archived episodes from years past. It has all of our secondary show, which is at this point is currently only seen in the Louisville market, called OVW Overdrive. It's kind of like a Superstars type show.
Okay.
Um, and that's a phenomenal show as well. Um, but all the Overdrive episodes are on there as well. So if you don't have U2 America, you can always go on the OVW TV apps and download that. Combined, we're in well over with just U2 America, we're in well over 45 million homes across the U.S. And Puerto Rico. As for me, you're always able to find me on social media uh, at Chicago Bear Hug. That's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can find Steve Michaels on all of those. You can buy my shirts.
Like I did right here.
You can buy the Steve Michaels shirts. Um, at prowrestlingtees.com/Chicago Bear Hug. And yeah, again, follow, and then you can also through my pages you can find the rest of the members of the Legacy of Brutality, Big Zoe, Cashflow, Isaiah, Josh Ashcraft. You can find all of them through my stuff as well, and you can keep up with what's going on down at OVW and the brutality that we're going to bring there.
Beautiful. Well, Steve, thank you again so much for your time tonight. This was a lot of fun, and best of luck to you in the future.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thanks again to Steve Michaels for taking time out of his day to chat with me. I thought his stories about his journey through the world of professional wrestling were very entertaining and informative, and I also really enjoyed the Ghostbusters chatter. Please support the Windy City Ghostbusters by going to their Facebook page and various other social media outlets to see all the good that they do throughout the community. And to support Steve and the rest of the wrestlers of Ohio Valley Wrestling, you can check them out on YouTube TV, which is available through most major cable providers. If for some reason your provider does not have that channel, you can go to the Ohio Valley Wrestling TV app, which you can get on either a Roku player or a Fire Stick. Also, to support Steve, you can get one of his 2 really cool t-shirts on prowrestlingtees.com. Website is prowrestlingtees.com/Chicago Bear Hug. As always, thank you to my best friend in the world, Andre Boyd, for all of the music that you hear during the Whaddya Say with DDJ shows. And one last thing before we go, Steve Michaels has a message for everyone.
This is Steve Michaels, the master of the Chicago Bear Hug, and you are listening to Whaddya Say with DDJ. And if you don't listen, I swear I will send the rest of the Legacy of Brutality after you. And you don't want that.